Israel committing genocide in Gaza, world's top scholars on the crime say. International Association of Genocide Scholars resolution backed by 86% of members who voted. An overwhelming majority of members of the world's leading Genocide Scholars Association have backed a resolution stating that Israel's actions in Gaza meet the legal definition of the crime. 86% of those who voted in the 500-member International Association of Genocide Scholars, IAGS, supported the motion. The resolution states that Israel's policies and actions in Gaza meet the legal definition of genocide in Article 2 of the United Nations Convention for the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide, 1948. The three-page resolution passed by the body calls on Israel to immediately cease all acts that constitute genocide, war crimes and crimes against humanity against Palestinians in Gaza, including deliberate attacks against and killing of civilians including children, starvation, deprivation of humanitarian aid, water, fuel, and other items essential to the survival of the population, sexual and reproductive violence, and forced displacement of the population. The resolution said the IAGS recognized that since the horrific Hamas-led attack of October 7, 2023, which itself constitutes international crimes, the government of Israel had engaged in systematic and widespread crimes against humanity, war crimes and genocide, including indiscriminate and deliberate attacks against the civilians and civilian infrastructure, including hospitals, homes, and commercial buildings, of Gaza. Melanie O'Brien, the IAGS president and a professor of international law at the University of Western Australia, said the resolution was a definitive statement from experts in the field of genocide studies that what is going on the ground in Gaza is genocide. Founded in 1994, the IAGS has a broad membership that includes academics, historians, political scientists, and human rights activists. It has adopted previous resolutions identifying genocide, including historical cases such as the Armenian Genocide. The 1948 UN Convention, drafted in the aftermath of the Holocaust, defines genocide as acts committed with intent to destroy, in whole or in part, a national, ethnical, racial or religious group. It obliges signatory states to act to prevent and stop such crimes, which may include killing members of a group, inflicting serious harm, imposing destructive living conditions, preventing births or transferring children by force. There was no immediate response from the Israeli Foreign Ministry. Israel is fighting allegations at the world's top court, the International Court of Justice, of committing genocide in Gaza. Separately, the International Criminal Court, ICC, has issued arrest warrants for Israel's Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, and his former defense minister Yoav Gallant. It also issued an arrest warrant for the Hamas military chief Mohammed Deif, but withdrew it after he was killed. Belgium to recognize Palestinian state at UN General Assembly. We are restarting our live coverage of Israel's war on Gaza. Belgium's foreign minister, Maxime Prevot, has said his country will recognize a Palestinian state at the UN General Assembly later this month, adding to international pressure on Israel after similar moves by Australia, Britain, Canada, and France. The decision comes in light of the humanitarian tragedy unfolding in Palestine, particularly in Gaza, and in response to the violence perpetrated by Israel in violation of international law, Prevot said in a post to social media. Israel has become increasingly isolated on the international stage as it faces credible accusations of genocide, ethnic cleansing, war crimes and the collective punishment of the civilian population of Gaza. Israel's assault has flattened large parts of Gaza, killing more than 63,000 people, mostly civilians, forcing nearly all of Gaza's more than 2 million people from their homes and causing what the UN-backed Hunger Monitor, the Integrated Food Security Phase Classification, IPC, described last month as a man-made famine in and around Gaza City. Israel is still obstructing aid into the territory, despite widespread starvation. In a lengthy post on X describing the Belgian government's new position, Prevot wrote, "In light of the humanitarian tragedy unfolding in Palestine, particularly in Gaza, and in response to the violence perpetrated by Israel in violation of international law, given its international obligations, including the duty to prevent any risk of genocide, Belgium had to take strong decisions to increase pressure on the Israeli government and Hamas terrorists. This is not about sanctioning the Israeli people but about ensuring that their government respects international and humanitarian law and taking action to try to change the situation on the ground." Maxime Prevot said Belgium took the decision to step up pressure on the Israeli government and Hamas. Maxime Prevot said Belgium took the decision to step up pressure on the Israeli government and Hamas. Photograph, Shutterstock. The recognition of Palestine would only be formalized if Hamas releases all remaining Israeli hostages kidnapped in the Hamas-led October 7 attack on southern Israel in 2023 and the militant group no longer has any role in managing Palestine, Prevat added. Prevat said Belgium, a member of the European Union, would levy 12 firm sanctions on Israel, such as a ban on importing products from its settlements and a review of public procurement policies with Israeli companies. It will also declare Hamas leaders persona non grata in Belgium. The minister also said 2 extremist Israeli ministers and several violent settlers would be designated persona non grata in Belgium. While he didn't name the ministers, they are likely to be Itamar Ben-Gvir, the far-right security minister in Benjamin Netanyahu's coalition government, and Bezalel Smotrich, the far-right finance minister. Over the summer, the UK, alongside Australia, Canada, New Zealand and Norway sanctioned Ben-Gvir and Smotrich over repeated incitements of violence against Palestinian communities in the occupied West. Moved into new areas and claimed to have found a Hamas weapons store. 691 of the war in Gaza. He's in the Strip. Say Israeli attacks killed at least 11 more people overnight in Gaza City, where the UN has declared a famine. Israeli troops reportedly moved into new areas and claimed to have found a Hamas weapons store in nearby Jabalia. Israel's military is warning residents that the evacuation of Gaza City is inevitable, and that people should move to the quote vast empty areas to the south, a strip of land about half the size of the city of Vancouver. It is pledged to increase the number of aid hubs for 2 million people from 3 to 5 as we speak children. In Gaza, a systematic gaping stopped to death. This is a deliberate policy. The government of Israel could end this famine tonight if it chooses to, and it's deliberate obstruction. On Wednesday, 14 of the 15 members of the UN Security Council signed a joint statement saying the famine is man-made. Israel must immediately and unconditionally lift all restrictions on a delivery. The U.S. opted out of the statement on a day its Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, welcomed his Israeli counterpart, Gideon Sa'ar, and as the White House to the meeting on Gaza aid hostages and post-war plans for a conflict with no peace deal in sight. The meeting by U.S. President Donald Trump included his son-in-law and former advisor Jared Kushner and former British Prime Minister Tony Blair. The Financial Times has reported that staff at Players non-profit have taken part in a previous meeting about post-war Gaza in the spring. Trump suggested Gazans could leave the Strip in order to create a so-called Riviera of the Middle East there. Donna Redman, Shannon in London. Thank you.